It can only be attributable to human error.
You're entering He meddled in things that you people. He meddled in things. He meddled in things.
Where will we go next? Just phantom from another time.
No one, Mr. Mulder.
That's it, man. Game over, man. Game over.
That is one big pile of shit.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Daikaiju.
I'm Jasmine May with
I'm Eli Watson.
And you're listening to...
Cryptid.
Campfire.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Hey. Oh, boy. We're back from being glitched in the Matrix.
Yes, we've been glitching in and out, and now we're here for, I guess, some spooky stories, or...
Oh, yeah. What better way to follow up the existential horror of living in a computer simulation than telling stories about the paranormal right after?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I want Jasmine to share her original pitch for this episode.
Okay. Well, we're kind of in this little series of like sharing stories that we've experienced ourselves or have happened to people we know or that we just find online. And I kind of wanted to do like spirit guide / guardian angel stories, but then we kind of expanded that into, well, let's just, share stories about any type of spirit experience or encounter or paranormal event and things like that. So it's going to be a very broad subject today. As Alex said before we started recording, he said it's going to run the gambit, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the expression.
That is true. Yeah, run the gambit. We're going to have some stories that, kind of err on the good side of, a paranormal experience, and maybe some stories that'll, scare you in this post-Halloween time.
Yeah, so we've got stories ranging from like hauntings to, like I said, spirit guide encounters, guardian angel encounters, comforting stories, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. We'll even do a review of The Haunting of Bly Manor for good measure.
Dude,
Oh
we
my.
could. I got thoughts.
Well, before I think we jump into telling the stories and having a good time, we want to reach out to the listeners. And, well, if you've had any strange paranormal or cryptid stories, you should tell them to us, please.
Oh, yes, please do. I would love to hear your stories and share them on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I guess
sign out a waiver, you let us read.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was like, if you would like your story shared on the podcast, please indicate so in the email.
Yeah, we don't know
Oh,
the
yeah.
next time. We don't know the next time that we'll be doing an episode like this, but we want to kind of like gather some good stories so that the next time we do want to put together an episode like this, we can just reach into the bag and see what we've got.
Yes. And feel free to reach us at info@cryptidcampfire.com.
Yeah, do it. Tell us your stories. We want to hear.
Yes. But let's jump off the diving board. Let's belly flop into this.
Yeah, belly flop off a high dive.
Yeah. Oh, I'm first. Again.
Yeah. Surprise.
Surprise. Watch, we're gonna change it next week. So I have some stories today that are kind of short stories, but stories that I was told from the people who experienced them. They occurred at the movie theater we all worked at.
Mm-hmm. We being Eli, Alex, and Jasmine.
Yes.
The origins of the Cryptid Campfire, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh,
Yes.
and for everyone listening, that's where Stefan worked too.
Yeah, it's true. Before, he went MIA, RIP,
Before he went back to his home planet.
Is that the narrative we're pushing now? That Stefan's an alien and he went back home?
Yeah, he hailed all the way from gorgeous Omicron 7-8 all the way into 65th galaxy.
Oh my, that's wow. Uh, well then, yes. So I'm trying to think of the best way to begin. So there were some rumors that the movie theater that we all worked at was haunted, and you know, I talk about this position a little bit, alcohol compliance monitor (ACM), a little bit in some of our retrospective episodes, and so it used to be a two-person job, and that's really how I met Alex, was through just kind of messing around on duty, I guess.
Yeah, hey,
And
we basically hung out.
yeah, really, and got paid to do it. Greatest job ever. But then then they changed it to a one-person job. And I mean, I guess that's reasonable. You only really need one person to do the job, but whatever. So it was when they moved it to a one-person job that I was inspecting the theaters, you know, monitoring the alcohol compliance when uh, I just got like weird vibes from some of the theaters, like especially late at night. And I'm not like, this was before like my supernatural experiences at my house, which I will not be sharing on this episode. I have shared them, oh my goodness, on a bunch of times. I have shared it a bunch of times now. If you would like to hear it most in depth, check out the stories from the Campfire episode. I think it's episode like 18 or something.
If you're doing your homework, you'll know which one it is.
Yeah. But I've also been interviewed a couple of times on different podcasts, and I've shared my experiences there as well. Um, so I'm not going to share them here. Not again. But this was prior to that. So I had yet to witness anything that I would consider supernatural or paranormal. And, I was getting some weird vibes, and I casually mentioned it to a manager. I'm using a pseudonym here, but I casually mentioned it to a manager named Caleb, and I said, and I don't know, I didn't really get along with him too. It didn't seem like I got along with him. It really didn't seem like he liked me. But I was like, hey man, what's up with this place? Is it haunted or what? And I kind of said it as a joke, because I do that, I joke. And he was like, yeah, I think it is. And I was like, what? And he started telling me he had like a bunch of more stories, and I can't really remember them. I remember like bits and pieces, but I'll share the one that I remember completely. And I'm pretty sure he said that this was either himself or another manager who had experienced this. But so we had our big IMAX theater, which uh, is the biggest screen in Southern California. I'm just gonna throw that out there because awesome. But it was like 3 stories tall, and if you went up to the IMAX lab, or where the oh wait, that's not the IMAX lab. Oh my goodness. No, if you go up to where the projection is, the projector for the IMAX screen was, it was about like 3 stories up. And as far as I can tell, I think there was a phone up there. In case, the manager's office was on the first floor. And, if they needed to reach whoever was up in the projector's office, they would just give them a ring. And I think Caleb or another manager was closing up for the night and was the last person in the building, and went up, did their little check of the IMAX projector, and then went back down to the first floor to the manager's office and received a call from the IMAX projector room.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think they picked it up, but
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Whoa.
Like, it's pretty spooky, pretty scary. But So after that, I was talking to another coworker, again, pseudonym Sigourney. She said she had had some strange experiences in the IMAX as well. And I don't know, like obviously I'm not there to, confirm that this real was real or not. But we had little walkie-talkies, you know, and you put the little earpiece in, and she said that she was, cleaning IMAX by herself, and all of a sudden it just like broke out into static, and amidst the static she heard a voice say, "Hello, Sigourney."
Whoa.
Yes. I thought that was pretty wild. Oh, this kind of happened to me. This actually did happen to me. Wow, I kind of forgot about this. But I was with Sigourney and I was cleaning Theater 1. And it was actually, there was a bunch of people in there, but I can't remember everyone else. But we were cleaning Theater 1, or House 1, as we used to call them. And like, the show was over. The screen, the projector was like turned off, the lights had turned on. There was a bunch of us in there cleaning up the theater, and then like it was so weird. It was static, came over the surround sound system,
Mhm.
and a voice was saying something, but none of us could make it out, and it stopped after about 5 seconds.
Hmm.
And we were
Interesting.
and that's, it has a balcony, and we were on the bottom, and we're like, oh, haha, you know, um, we thought one of the managers was playing a joke on us,
I
but
think I was here for this.
maybe there was no one there. There was no one upstairs.
Yeah, and we all freaked out.
Were you in there?
I think so. Cause didn't I go up to check if someone was
You
up
might
there?
have been. Someone did go up to check. It might have been you.
I think it might have been me.
Dude, wild.
Whoa.
Yeah. One of the bartenders, Marquise. So it was one of the upstairs theaters, particularly one of the ones that I got one of the most spooky vibes from, which was House 18. He said that there was a ghost person in there. And he said, I don't know, Marquise was a little strange with his tactics. My tactic when the show was over and I'm waiting for the people to get out was just to wait for everyone to get out. But he would go in there and count the number of people. And so he said it happened to him several times where he would count like 18 people, 17 people would walk out, and he would be waiting on that last person to come out. And then after it had been like 5 minutes, he would go in and find that there was no one in there.
Mm.
And he said that happened several times. So like
Mhm.
it's more than just like and this is like a second story theater. Like you can't just like walk out that bottom exit door and get out, you know?
Mm.
Mhm.
It's like you'll just like fall 2 stories or something, you know? Like,
Yeah.
you know? So that like always threw me off. I was
Yeah.
like,
He,
dude,
he 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 told me that one too. I remember him telling me that story.
yeah, dude, that straight up creepy, dude. Um, so my roommate and and friend at the time, we went to go watch a movie together. If I recall correctly, it was Valerian.
Mm.
Oh, and the City of a Thousand Planets.
Yeah, The City of a Thousand Planets. Bad movie. Um, it's like cool. There's like a lot of cool things, but like as a whole, it's just like
it
really like,
it it's crazy because it's by Fifth Element,
yeah.
and you watch Fifth Element and you watch Valerian side by side, and it's just you cannot tell me it's the same man because it feels like a completely different movie.
Yeah, yeah, dude, it's kind of weird. Like there's like some parts that are like genuinely you're like, yeah, this is good. And then like
Hmm.
other parts where you're just like, oh my, what is this?
Well, we're getting on a tangent, but I will
Yeah.
say that I forget the guy's name. It's kind of weird. The main character, the actor,
Oh,
I forget what his real.
oh, Dane DeHaan or something like that.
Yeah, Dane DeHaan. It just very miscast.
I think so as well.
Because it's weird just watching him like just suck the life out of everything in the scene around him.
Dude, Cara Delevingne makes that movie, and not recommended. But anyways, we were watching this movie, and Kane was sitting on my right side, and he had fallen asleep. You know, reasonably so when you're watching a movie like Valerian. But he told me that he woke up in the middle of the show, and he had like jolted awake, and I was like, oh, homeboy fell asleep. And like sometimes that happens, you know, you just jolt awake from a nap. So I was like, yeah, I've been there. But he told me he jolted up because he had like woken up, like he had just like opened his eyes, and his head was facing just kind of the side of the theater, and he had seen someone standing there at the end of the aisle looking at us, just standing there watching us. And then he was like, what? And just kind of like jolted up. But when he had jolted up, they were gone.
Whoa.
It was probably the ACM.
Now, I didn't notice anyone during the whole show. So I don't know.
What theater was it? Do you remember?
This was probably like 2.
Okay.
I want to say it was 2 or 3 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Crazy.
Dude, I know. It's pretty nuts. It freaked me out for sure.
I was gonna say, if I may add, I had a story someone told me too.
From the theater?
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there was a girl there while we were at the theater. There was a girl. You both probably don't know her, but I'm just gonna call her name. I'll call her Sarah. And so I was upstairs. I was ACM that day actually, and but I think I had to go help the bartender because I bartended at the theater. And I asked if someone could come up and take care of one of the houses that need to be cleaned. So, I see her come up. She goes into 16, and probably about 30 seconds later or so, she walks out and just like kind of walks away from the house. And I'm like, oh, was it not really that dirty in there? Because I think there was like a few people in it, you know?
Mm.
And she was just like, I can't clean that house. I can't go in there. I was like, oh, is everything okay? She's like, I'm getting some bad vibes. I can't. And like she started getting kind of like stuttery.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, it's okay. Hey, can you do me a favor? Do you want to go into like balcony 1 and check on the people in there? Because I hadn't heard too many stories about balcony 1. But so I went into 16 and there was like nobody in there. It wasn't that dirty, but she's like, yeah, I saw her again. She's like, yeah, I can't go back to that house. And then like a week or 2 later, she was gone.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. So, and I had heard people say, because you mentioned 18, and I heard people had mentioned 16 had weird stuff in it too sometimes.
Yeah, 18 and 16. I mean, they were right across from each other, right?
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
remember. I didn't know where the theaters were when I was working there because the upstairs was in a weird order.
I'm pretty familiar. I think for my last like 3 months, I was ACM, so I had plenty of time to memorize the upstairs theater.
Yeah, and even then, it was just the fact that 15 and 16 had switched places numerically.
Yeah, straight up. That was weird. Wild. Remember the stories about the basement?
Oh yeah.
Heinrich, he would tell us about like people in the basement sometimes, like sightings of like a girl in the basement, right?
Mm-hmm.
That always freaked me out. I didn't like that basement. I got weird vibes in the basement. Oh my goodness.
Are you just like uncovering repressed memories of ghost encounters that you've had that you forgot
No.
about?
No, this is another thing that someone told me. It's probably inconsequential, but one of the people that I worked with, Cheryl, um, she shared with me one night I was stocking or like getting some like paper towels from the basement, and I was like, "Come on, Cheryl, let's go." And then we went to the little closet before you go down to the stairs, and then she stopped at the top of the stairs, and she was like, "I don't want to go down." And I was like, "Are you scared?" She's like, "Yes. I've been having dreams about the basement." And like scary dreams, like spooky dreams, but she wouldn't tell me what they were.
Ooh.
But
Yeah.
anyways, that's the theater we worked at.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say, for reference, just picture every murder basement you've ever seen in like a true crime documentary,
Yeah,
and imagine that's like what's beneath a little movie theater.
straight up.
It's funny too, because when I hired in there, we did orientation, which, as you guys know, they just kind of walk you around, point things, and tell you this, and that, and they throw you on into your first shift, and may
Yeah,
God be with you.
yeah, yeah, straight up.
But during my orientation, they didn't manage their time right, so I never got to see where the basement was. I just knew
Oh,
we had one.
oh no.
So one day, like, I think I was like, I got to be usher, so I was walking around. It was kind of slow. I was like, oh, here's the closets for like paper towels. I'm just walking around, opening doors, just trying to see what's what. And then I went into storage room so and so, and I'm like, oh, there's stairs down here. Huh. And then I walked down. I'm like, whoa, there's like a big cage of product here. And then, oh, there's more. And I was like, oh, this place is huge. This giant labyrinth basement that keeps going lower and lower and scarier and scarier.
Dude, remember the sub basement?
Oh yeah, and that place is scary as is.
Oh my. I have another story about the sub basement. Just a real quick one. So I had this friend named Adrian. We used to work back bar all the time, actually. I would be cafe and he would be back bar. Because for a cool minute, they made me cafe for like months on end, it seemed like,
Mm.
and I was cool with it because I kind of dug being barista. But, anyways, he told me about how in the sub basement, he went down there in the sub basement with like a couple of people, just kind of like, because it was spooky. It was like super
Hmm.
scary, and they went down there just to get spooked. But they were down there. One of the manager's offices was down there. Like he was like the maintenance guy or something.
Hmm.
But his office was all the way in the sub basement. Yeah, so they went down there. They saw, that maintenance guy's office. It was empty. Well, not empty, but like vacant because I don't think he was there anymore.
Hmm.
And there's a chair in that, it's got metal legs. And I know exactly what chair they were talking about because I have witnessed this chair many times when I visited the sub basement. Um, and they said they just heard it. They saw it and were walking around checking it out, and they just heard it being moved along the cement floor. And they were like, "Nope, we're getting out of here."
Yeah, I would have done the same.
Yeah, but yeah, sub basement was not fun. I didn't like it down
Very,
there.
very, very shady.
Dude, it was so creepy, dude. They had the whole heater for the theater down there, I think.
Hmm.
Look at that. We're just gonna lay out the blueprints for the whole theater. And the power switch was in this closet. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, man. Uh, Crazy, right? Working at a Honda workplace.
Dude, you're telling me. Once I did a little research to see if it was built on like an Indian burial ground or something like that, but I couldn't find anything. Who's next?
I can go ahead. So as I said at the beginning, I kind of tried to focus my research on like guardian angel / spirit guide stories, and I found that there was like a lot of overlap because there's a lot of different ways that people define spirit guides and guardian angels and things like that. So I'm going to share those first and then go into the longest story that I found. So, one definition for a spirit guide is a formerly human soul assigned to be our earthly tutor, to impress inspiration within us, to support us in decision making, and to collaborate with us in creative endeavors. Um, People define guardian angels as an angel believed to have special care of a particular individual. And then, so some say that we have a guardian angel who's with us from the beginning of our lives to the end. They watch over us, care for us, and intercede on our behalf. And then others use the term to describe loved ones who have passed away, that they believe are now watching over and protecting them. So there's a lot of overlap, a lot of similar wording, definitions, terms being used interchangeably, and things like that. So I'm going to read a story that takes place in a hospital. So I don't have, I do have the name. Okay, so this took place in Parkersburg, West Virginia. Patricia was admitted to the cardiovascular department after suffering a stroke, and she failed to show any signs of response for many days. So the doctors tried the best they could to like get her to respond, but nothing was happening very quickly. So she remained unresponsive. After a few days in the special treatment room, Patricia finally opened her eyes for the first time. Doctors and nurses immediately conducted stimulation activities and tested her reflexes. They wanted to check the degree of her bodily injuries caused by the stroke. So the left side of her face suffered from partial paralysis and slumped downwards. Her speaking was obscured, but she looked like she had a deep sense of serenity. So even though all this stuff is happening to her face, she like looks at peace. And so a week goes by and her condition gradually begins to improve. After physical therapy, she began to regain her ability to walk, and her speaking ability was also improving, though she continued to use a pen and paper to communicate with others. So the only question that she repeatedly wrote down was, "Where's Kelly?" At the time, there were no employees named Kelly working in the hospital, so staff just assumed that Kelly must have been one of Patricia's family members whom she was longing to see. But according to Patricia's son, there was no one in the family with that name. So many people believed that the after effects of her stroke could have caused Patricia to be mistaken about the name, but she never gave up on the name. Like, the name stayed with her. So even after her hearing ability improved, she kept asking about Kelly. After the nursing staff explained that there was no employee named Kelly in the hospital, Patricia still wanted to find this person and shared her story with everyone that crossed her path, because Patricia told people that the night she was taken to the hospital, a woman held her hand and spoke with a soft voice saying, "I'm Kelly and I'm here to help you get better." Presuming that Kelly was a nurse, Patricia asked her if she would die. And Kelly squeezed Patricia's hand and said, "You'll be fine. You'll live on to see your grandchildren grow up. You just need to close your eyes and take a rest." So Kelly also told Patricia that she would be with her until she is no longer needed. So a feeling of peace came forth in her mind and replaced her anxiety. And so she closed her eyes and fell asleep. The next thing she remembered was waking up to find the doctors surrounding her. Given Patricia's complete unconsciousness the day she came to the hospital, it was impossible for her to have talked to anyone. Moreover, Patricia insisted that she did talk to Kelly late that night. However, no one was allowed to visit patients after 8 p.m. According to Patricia, Kelly was a young woman in her 20s with long, wavy blonde hair, dressed in a white suit, which was why Patricia thought she was a nurse. She recalled that Kelly's eyes showed a lot of warmth and loving care, and all of her fears and anxieties were dissolved when Kelly took her hand. Eventually, Patricia did make a near complete recovery. She was discharged from the hospital and returned happily to her normal life. And it turns out, after telling this story to people around the hospital, staff kind of connected the dots and realized that more than just Patricia had somewhat similar experiences. Other patients in the hospital had shared stories of a young nurse named Kelly who comforted them when they were hospitalized for the first time. And in every account, she gave the patients words of comfort and hope to assure them that they would soon recover. And this story is finished off with this statement saying, "It does not matter whether Kelly is only a figment of the imagination or one sent from an unknown world. What matters is that she acted as a guardian angel and protected these vulnerable patients in a time of their most desperate need."
Mm.
Oh wow. Well, that's kind of
So-
nice.
Yeah, that's like a really detailed version of a story that I came across a couple times. Like there's plenty of times where like a mysterious nurse or a mysterious priest like or pastor shows up in a hospital room, and like people just interact with this figure like a normal person. They assume it's the doctor, they assume it's the nurse, they assume it's the pastor, and the interaction is normal. But then like a couple minutes later, like the real nurse or the real pastor will show up, and there will be confusion, and it's like, wait, wasn't somebody already just here? And then you're like, no, nobody else is on staff, nobody else is on the clock, I'm the only one here. And it's like, hold on a second, somebody was definitely in here. But that's like a common experience that people have, is these types of people showing up in hospitals or showing up when people are sick, and like offering words of comfort and just helping them get through whatever it is that they're going through.
Mm.
Yeah, kind of nice, kind of comforting. It's good to know that
Hmm.
there's a chance you might get a ghost nurse who's gonna treat you real nice.
Yeah,
That's wild.
I'll go ahead and share my second story too, because it's kind of similar but kind of not. It does have to deal with like sickness and hospitalization and things like that. This story actually comes from somebody that I know personally. Her name is Katie. She wrote this out for me because I put a status on Facebook asking if any of my friends had personal experiences, and this is what she sent me. She said, "My step grandma passed away back in 2004, and she has been my guardian angel ever since. I have this weird thing where I tend to gravitate toward the right side of my bed whenever I'm sleeping alone, and this was something I did as a kid to feel close to my step grandma because she lived several states away. We had a close relationship growing up, and she passed away from breast cancer in 2004. She's visited me several times since then, but there's a particular event that stands out above the rest. My best friend at the time had just called me to say that her grandma was in the hospital due to complications from her own battle with breast cancer, and I was close with her family, so I cried while I prayed for her to beat these complications. I was laying on the right side of my bed and felt the sensation of someone hugging me from behind as I laid down. It was cool, but not cold, and was a comforting sensation. The next morning, I found a letter that my step grandma had written me once when I was having a tough time with life, laying on the floor next to my bed. That letter had been tucked into a box with a blanket that she made me before I was born. It was under my bed, and there was no way that it could have slipped out and onto the floor without someone intentionally placing it there. The letter tells me to have faith and that all will be well. I knew in that moment that the sensation the night before and this letter on the floor was her way of telling me that everything would be okay. Sure enough, my friend's grandma beat her cancer and is still in remission today. My step grandma was a great source of comfort in difficult times when I was a child, and I know that she is still here comforting me today.
Ooh.
Wild.
Yeah. I like her story because it like there's like a physical aspect to it, like an item that
Mhm.
should not have been where it was. A lot of the stories that I came across like had a lot to do with feeling or like, sensing a presence, which is all valid and is great, and I believe it. But like I was really trying to find like really compelling stories where it's like, whoa, like there's no denying that something supernatural happened here. And for like this letter that is years old, that's tucked away into a keepsake box, to just be on the floor right next to her bed at the exact moment she needed those words of comfort to pass on to her friend, I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's legit.
Whoa.
Wild.
I was gonna say I've heard stories before where people have, they're missing a loved one who's passed on, or they're feeling in a down place, and then sometimes like that letter, something that reminds them or kind of helps them feel better, like mysteriously appears close by when it was packed away, or somewhere in like another room.
Mm-hmm.
So that is pretty interesting, you know. It's beyond the grave, you know. Sometimes our family still reaches us, and oh,
I was just gonna segue to you, Alex. What kind of stories do you have for us today?
yeah, I have two stories. One that kind of fits in line with our original idea of, you know, maybe some supernatural presence having a good impact, and then I have another story where it's the maybe the opposite of it to set the scene, if you will. So I'll tell my first story. It comes from someone I know very well in my personal life. It's from my wife, Michelle.
Oh.
She, we've mentioned, she's been on the podcast before. We had our spooky ghost stories episode. Because she's encountered lots, her family and herself have encountered various strange supernatural elements before. And when we were dating, she would tell me and I was like, oh, that's crazy, because I've, you know, always been interested in, you know, weird, strange things, and she's always had some good stories, and this one I think is pretty good. Um, this happened a long time ago, when she was about 10 or so, and she told me she was staying at her dad's place, which was like a mobile home on a big piece of property. And she's originally from San Jose, so you know there's areas where, you know, big property, people kind of, you know, plant mobile homes there. And her dad had a few animals, including a big mean dog who was kept on a leash. And one day he had some friends come over, and one of the friends had brought his daughter along, and she was to give her a tour of the outside. She says she thought the intention was to have them get along, play together, and, you know, stay away from the adults while they hung out. And so I showed her around, and we walked up to the dog, and she says that she got a little cocky, and was like, "You can only get this close to him," and she kind of planted her feet to where the chain would, you know, yank the dog back if he tried to lunge at her. But what she hadn't realized was that she stepped a little too close, and that the chain was actually looser because he'd been pulling on it so much. So it all happened really fast, but from what she can remember was the dog lunging at her, and then she remembers being thrown backwards and kind of flying like a disc through the air. And then she kind of regained herself. She sat up, and when she looked, she was about 10 to 15 feet away from the dog and where the girl were. She sat up and she asked what happened. The girl said that she was flying through the air, and she was super panicky. And then the girl called my wife a witch and ran away. And
Whoa.
she never saw her again.
Is that part true?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a crazy story, and like it's cool to hear it coming from someone that I mean I know Michelle. I don't talk to her. I don't talk to her often, but like I know her, and because I've read stories like that where people are like in car accidents and they like, you know, go through the windshield, but instead of landing, you know, where the car is with bruises and scratches and broken bones, they like float through the air and land softly, like, you know, 20 feet away without a scratch on them. And like witnesses say, oh yeah, it was crazy. Like you were just like floating through the air. Like I wish I could have seen something like that.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Wild, right? You know, it's funny too, because I made the joke. So it's like, oh, you know, in our last episode, glitches in the Matrix, you know, like in Red Dead when people just fly through the air because the system's broken. But in real life, sometimes people do that too.
That's
And,
not
right?
wild.
Yeah.
So what does Michelle think about that? Like, what's her opinion on what happened?
She definitely thinks that something was looking out for her. And she's mentioned before that she's had other little times to where she may have been like was gonna fall or something, and she like moved without, you know, doing anything, you know, it just kind of happened. Like, you know, when she described, she's like, I just remember being thrown through the air, like being picked up and thrown. So definitely something, I'm very grateful that something's on her side because it's pretty wild, So you hear stories, like Jasmine said, people, getting out of car crashes, unscathed, or, people, just encountering something dangerous and then getting out safely, So hope, we can only hope that we all got some kind of guardian angel or spirit on our side looking out for us in this crazy world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wild.
And
Eli-
Eli, are you next?
No,
Oh, did you tell all your stories?
I did tell all my. I mean, do you want me
Okay.
to share another story?
I I can share another story next because it's not exactly the same as what Alex just told, but it does have to deal with like somebody's life being saved by something that they can't really explain.
Oh, do it.
So I read this story on a website called Ranker. It was an anonymous poster. Well, it wasn't really an anonymous poster. It was linked to a deleted account. So who knows who it was. But this person wrote, my friend and I were sitting at a traffic light very late one night when his car just stalled. He tried and tried to get it to restart, but we couldn't get it going. So we jumped out to push it into the parking lot of a gas station that was next to where the car died. We were having trouble getting it up an incline when out of nowhere, this random guy came jogging up from the direction of the gas station. He got on the other side of the car and helped me push it up the incline, out of the street, and into the lot. We thanked him for his help and then turned around. Just then, a car came speeding around a curve and blew through the intersection where the car was just a minute before. My buddy and I were shocked because if that guy hadn't shown up when he did, we definitely would have been hit by that car. We turned back around to say thank you, but the guy was gone, just disappeared into thin air. I truly believe he was an angel sent to protect us that night. And that's the
Whoa.
story. Mysterious person shows up to give you assistance to save your life, and then he's gone, just like that.
Oh,
Whoa.
that's so strange.
I don't know why this just made me think of this, but this made me think of the movie Bruce Almighty.
Jim Carrey?
Yeah. Have you seen that movie?
Yeah. Remember when he lassos the moon?
Yeah, I do. But like I thought of it because spoiler alert, kind of, not really. Who's worried about being spoiled for them? But like the way that the homeless guy in that movie actually ends up being, God in disguise or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of reminded me that like there's a possibility that the people we encounter every day are saving our lives and we don't even realize it, Like there could be guardian angels walking amongst us all the time and we don't even realize it.
Yeah. There's that one song, What If God Was One of Us?
Yeah, and
Stranger on the bus.
Jim sings that in Bruce Almighty.
Speaking of Bruce Almighty, it has what I think was one of a good little joke is because you guys know Yahoo
Yeah.
Mail.
Mhm.
Well, back in the early 2000s, Yahoo used to always had a commercials where it was just, hey, you need a web browser? Yahoo.
Mhm.
And when he's God, he logs into his emails to answer prayers, and it's Yahweh.
That's pretty good.
That's a good movie. Well, Alex, did you have another story that you wanted to share that was similar?
Yeah, I reached out. Jasmine, you said you made a post, try to get some stories. I reached out to some friends as well to try to get some good paranormal stories, and I got some good spooky ones. And I wanted to share one from my good friend Janae. She emailed me with this story, and it is as follows. I went to college in New Mexico and was at a party during my freshman year with my boyfriend in the Tramway, Northeastern Heights area. We got into a huge fight in which he had my phone. I left the party and decided to walk back to my apartment. I had only lived in the area for a very short amount of time before this and was hazy about where my apartment was and angry enough to leave anyway. I walked out of the residential area towards a more main road. I was really upset at the time and had no way to call my friends for a ride home. Everything was closed as it was around 12:30 in the morning. I came upon this bus stop in the Juan Tabu Maniel area and sat down on the curb to try and wait for a bus. It was dead quiet, no traffic, no one around. I had planned to wait for a bus to take back to my area of town. I waited for a while and noticed that there was a white van in the parking lot of a gas station. I decided I would approach and ask to use the cell phone. The white van's truck doors were both open. As I approached the van, I decided to take a look before I alerted the van owners to my presence. There was someone in the back of the van with his back turned toward me. He was speaking in a low voice tone and was in a prayer position on his knees. I didn't understand what he was saying, but there was a soft light in the van, almost like a candle burning. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I got this weird feeling all of a sudden and decided I shouldn't be there. I backed up quietly and ran back across the street where I was waiting before, but kept an eye on the van. I started crying at the bus stop because the stress of the situation and the fact that there was no one really started to scare me. I noticed a movement in my peripheral, and it was my boyfriend walked up to me. He came from the direction of that van. When he walked up to me, he said, "Did you see the guy in that van?" And I told him I did. We decided that it was really odd and decided to walk out of that area. As I got up from the sitting position, the neighborhood area we had both come from loudly erupted from the sound of dogs barking. Alarming, scared-sounding barks, like they were crying, screaming, and barking at the same time. There must have been at least 10 to 20 dogs barking like that. My boyfriend and I are both Native American, and to hear dogs doing this is alarming to us. We believe that dogs can sense supernatural presence and will alert humans to something harmful in the area. Something scared them. Then all of a sudden, they just stopped, all at once. And for a second, it was dead quiet again. Felt like I was frozen, and I stared into the dark residential area from which the parking noise came from for a few seconds earlier. Suddenly, a noise started coming from that area. I can't even describe how terrifying it sounded. It was like one voice, two tones coming from it, a high and a low pitch, and it started off soft, like it was very distant. Started getting louder, as if something was wailing that was moving at a high speed towards us. I turned back to look at my boyfriend to verify he was hearing this too, and he was staring towards the same area with a look of horror on his face. "We need to get out of here now," was all he said when his eyes met mine. It verified he was hearing that horrible noise too. At the time we started running, it was loud. By the time we started running, it was loud as it really close. It never stopped to take a breath. Just one continuous wail scream in two tones. I wanted to look back, but I was honestly scared that what I might see. My boyfriend had my arm and was making me run faster than I had ever in my whole life. As we got further away, I noticed the sound just stopped, almost as if it had got to its destination. My boyfriend turned around and was looking around. He got on the phone and called a friend to pick us up. We at this point hadn't mentioned what we'd heard. When he hung up, he looked at me and said, "That guy seemed like he was calling whatever that was to his van." We discussed it for a few minutes, and he revealed to me that he was checking out that van first before he saw me to make sure the guy didn't have me in a kidnap style. He said the guy was chanting and what that kind of like lit up the altar at some sort. It looked like witchcraft. When our friends picked us up, we told them what happened, told us that witchcraft was pretty common in the area, both modern and historically. It was terrifying because there was no way to push that in the back of my brain and think that I must have imagined it. My boyfriend heard it too and described it exactly the same. One voice, two-tone screaming. I hope I never ever hear that sound ever again. It obviously wasn't human. The end.
Dude, what?
Right?
Oh my.
Pretty scary.
I like don't even know how to process that because that's like such a non-typical story.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is it's just like, oh, it's a crazy story, creepy situation, and then the area too has got some history of some crazy shenanigans going on.
Yeah, straight up. That's pretty
But
wild stuff right there, dude.
but yeah, that's kind of the spectrums of the scary spookernatural and the helpful spookernatural we got.
Spookernatural.
Yeah, it's the new term, the new clinical term for it. Spookernatural.
Spookernatural. Dude, that almost sounds like a snack or something. You know, like granola, like a bag of
Yeah.
granola.
Are you hungry, Eli?
Spookernatural. No, well, kind of, but yes.
Fear always makes me so hungry.
Dude, I'm Shaggy.
Like Scoob.
You know,
Ah, that was weird.
just the constant fear, makes me hungry.
Well, would you go into this haunted house for an Eli snack?
No, but I'd do it for a Scooby snack.
Woohoo.
All right. Well, I think it was a fantastic day. I think that we lived, laughed, loved, and y- you know, did everything in between. So, so if I want to learn how to live, I need to go to the live master himself, Alex Daikaiju. How do I find you online?
Hello. If you want to find me on Instagram and Twitter, you can find me at Alex Daikaiju. That's Alex Daikaiju. On my Instagram, I post a lot of monster and cryptid related artwork, so be sure to check that out. And the sources that I used today were the people from my very life. And well, following the setup that Eli has, if you want to learn how to love Pedro Pascal, turn to Jasmine May with the master.
I do love that man. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Jasmine Maywith, JasmineMaewith. I did try to do some genuine research for this episode, and there is information out there, but none of it was really what I wanted to talk about today. But I'm going to go ahead and mention the sources that I turned to anyways, in case you're curious about what they said. I used the Huffington Post, Merriam-Webster for some definitions, a website that is either called Live About or Live About. I never know which one because I can't find audio of anybody saying it. Um, the BL, Angelus News, and Ranker.
Woohoo! Good little collection there.
Whoa.
And well, to close it out, if you want to learn how to laugh and laugh and laugh some more, the comedic stylings of Eli Watson.
The comedic stylings. Throwback to that Yeti episode, man. The comedic stylings of Jimmy Stewart. Anyways, you can find me on Instagram at the Eli Watson, and my sources for today came from my own brain. If you are a fan of the show, if you liked the show, you want to get more of the show, check us out at Cryptid Campfire on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We post, fairly regularly on all three of those platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Check out our website, cryptidcampfire.com. You can get yourself a snazzy Cryptid Campfire t-shirt. That's right, everyone. Just in time for the holidays. That's what everyone wants underneath their Christmas tree.
Oh yeah, you got to get Christmas presents for your family, and we got the shirts just for 'em.
Exactly. They're great stocking stuffers too. One under the tree, one in the stocking.
One,
You know,
yeah, one in the chimney for good measure.
put one in the Thanksgiving turkey. Just stuff it.
And then
Anyways.
on New Year's Day, you can have a new shirt as well.
Yeah, why not? Just keep it going. And if you buy all those shirts for all those occasions and you feel like you just can't get enough, please check out our Patreon, where for $5 a month you get access to 2 new exclusive episodes, as well as the backlog of exclusive episodes we've already released.
Yeah, there's some gold in them hills.
Oh yes, I mean, what are some of the best ones? We got the Mummy episode, we got
Mm-hmm.
the Flying Dutchman episode.
We got an episode about gremlins.
Exactly. Those are some of the highlights right there. Some of the straight juice, man. Some of
Yeah.
that campfire nectar. And with that, I guess we'll bid you adieu.
Thanks for joining us for these stories, guys.
Yeah. Woohoo. It's a lot of fun, and we'll see you next week with something even crazier.
Perhaps. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
This podcast is a part of Straight Up Strange Productions. Discover more shows like this one at straightupstrange.com.